Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. It's New Year's Day, January 1st, and we're going to take a look around the garden. We're going to talk about a few things, getting preparation, and let you know what's going on. When it comes to planning a spot for your garden, sunshine is a major factor. Now, in the morning time, especially, I think that sunshine is most important to plants. Now you can see it's kind of early in the day, but this is getting close to winter solstice, so the sun is almost at its furthest point to the south. Now we have a lot of sunshine here right this minute, but let's take a look and see what it looks like later in the afternoon. And this is the same area in the evening in the winter solstice. And so you can see there's not any sun at all. In fact, it's going to get way back to here before it gets any sun, because of where the sun is at right now. So anyway, that's something to consider when you're choosing your spot. I thought it was kind of important to slip that in there as far as considering where you put your garden. You know, it's always when you're coming up on planting time, especially if you're new to it, you need to consider things like sunlight hours. Now, this is wintertime, or just past the winter solstice, and the sun will start moving up further north, so that works fine either way for me. You just got to know what you're going to plant. But if you're going to plant some warm weather crops that like sunlight, you need to be aware of where your shady spots are. We're starting out here at the trailer. Now, I had a full load this morning. I've got probably a third, maybe less. We've been working on these beds. We'll go in here and talk about that. Now, garden preparation is an important thing before you start gardening. You need to get your beds prepared. Now, these were prepared earlier. You can see how they're not quite as dark. This one will get prepared, but it's not going to get it until we pull up our ginger. We'll rejuvenate it and plant the ginger right back in it. And we can't do it all because we've got this cilantro here. But you can see this was that same garden spot where I showed you with the shade, and we've got this bed cleaned up. One of the main things that I want to mention when you're getting ready to start your seeds is make sure that you have a place for your garden and that it's prepared. This here, if you wait till you're just going to plant, you're going to have a whole lot more work in one time, and then you're going to have to contend with whatever little ones that had come back right around your plant. So it's good to go ahead and get this prepared. Now, me, I'm no-till, so and these I had let go when they get to like this. They get pretty extreme. I hadn't used them, and I have a lot of weeds that are right over across the fence right here close, and so they blow over into here and take root. The seeds germinate and take root. But it's very important that you get that done. Now, I use a stirrup hoe. These beds that I'm preparing now, I'll go ahead and rake the bigger weeds out, leave the other ones, and I'm coming back with compost because I have to recondition these. But we use a stirrup hoe. They say stirrup hoe because it looks like a stirrup. Now, some call it a pivot hoe because the head on it pivots back and forth whenever you're working it. It makes easy work of getting weeds, and then you don't have to cut real deep. Now, when you get bigger weeds that are well rooted, it's a different story. But as far as make sure you get your ground prepared. And here we go. This is after we've taken out the weeds and we put down a layer of compost. Now I use wood chip compost. Most of you that follow me know that. We'll have to get with this one, but we've been doing some other beds in here too. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's important in the wintertime. Now, if you're going to be planting now, there's still a lot of stuff, especially in my area of the South, in Northeast Texas. It's warm enough we can grow a lot of things. We have been getting some cold spells, but we redid this bed. This was where our peppers are, and it's kind of hard to keep track of beds sometimes because this one just says a little bit of weeding needs done, but we redid this one right before we planted our spinach, and we redid this one right before we planted our late tomatoes. So it just needs minor weeding. Now this one where we had our late green beans, we redid it, and so we've got it ready. And the ones where our onions are, they were redone, and the ones where our turnips and mustard greens, we just recently redid in this one. And we actually ran out on the end of that one, so that's going to be our next bed. We'll finish it. We're getting the weeds out of the rows. Now on some we just use this stirrup hoe like I showed, but we've got these beds down here. These all really need redone. And the easiest way to tell now, if you are doing this method, the easiest way to tell is to get down here and work in your compost. And when you start seeing dirt that's pretty close to the top, then that means your organic matter is getting low, and it's time to put some more. Because the key to organic gardening is keeping enough organic matter for the microbiology. And the main thing about starting these beds early is to make sure that you give that microbiology time to start building up. Because if you take and just plant and then you're going to be waiting, and your crops aren't going to do as good. But you can see right here where we can see sand, because this is what this ground is sand. Now it does have a little organic matter, but it's just sand. So that's what we do is come back and build on the top. Now let's go talk about getting our seeds ready. I want to apologize for all that clicking when I walk, but when you get old and your joints start getting stiff, you might hear, no, not really. My microphone was clipped to my zipper and on my jacket, and it was kind of making a little noise. But anyway, we've got that out of the way. Now, this is January 3rd. I kind of got busy yesterday, went and got some more compost, and we were really busy the rest of New Year's. But I went and got me some Chinese food, and fortune cookie said, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I would say that's true in gardening, but I also, and I don't make New Year's resolutions much, but my plans for this year is not planning so much and taking more time to just enjoy life around. So pay attention to what your surroundings and the joys of that in your garden. And that being said, that's kind of a broad base, but we are going to have to plan if we're going to take and plant our seeds, and we're going to get them in on time. Now, last year I planted January 1st. I planted some tomatoes and some bell peppers and jalapenos, so I'd have some early. This year I'm not going to do that, so I'll be a couple weeks behind that schedule because I kind of planned early. But the main thing is that you need to know in your area is your average last frost date. Now, these charts or these guides, this is for a different county than mine, but I like to use this one because how it's set up, and I find it comes pretty true when you start talking about planting guides, remember that word guide. They're they're not set in stone. They're a guide to give you an idea of when to plant. And you can get around these by different methods of row protection, stuff like that. But even if you go by your last frost date, average frost date, and you plant, that doesn't mean that you're not going to end up getting a freeze. One year, and this always sticks in my mind, is our average last frost date. I like to think is somewhere around March 25th to the 28th. Now, if you go looking online and you put that in a search, you're going to find that you're going to have so many different dates for your particular area if you put your town in and stuff. And that's because it's not a given. But this one year particularly, being our last frost is normally the end of March, and all the trees were out, and they say once the native pecans start putting out leaf, you're safe. Well, we had one that was fully leafed out, and this was the middle of March or the middle of May, and we had a hard freeze that killed all the leaves on the trees. So if you have your plants out, know that this can happen. That's all part of gardening. And when you take and you start gardening and you have preconceived ideas about how your garden is going to do, and you don't allow yourself this option in there that you might fail, then you're going to be really disappointed. Understand this happens, and a lot of times you're prepared. I try to plant extra plants and then protect them, so if something does come out in an extreme like that I'll have something to replant in there. But this is the time of year to plan. We've already talked about garden preparation, getting that ready, because you don't want to do this all at once. If you do this all at once, you're going to be overwhelmed, and you're going to think gardening is just so hard, because you take and go out there and you weed everything, then you prepare your beds, and like I say, if you're doing organic and you're doing trying to build up your soil's microbiology, and you wait till the last minute, it's going to take it time to build up. Your plants are going to be in the ground, and they're not going to have that big thriving population of microbes in there to help bring them on. Yes, you can use chemicals, but if you're going to use chemical fertilizers and such as that, you might as well buy from the store. The whole idea of gardening at home is so you get the best quality produce on your table. And the other advantage is you can grow varieties that you like. Now, I have a lot of seeds, and as you can see here, I've got a lot spread out now. Last year, I planted 3 types of eggplants. My plan this year is just to plant one. I have a stack of tomato seeds here, and I will plant some of these in the beginning of the season, but a lot of these will be a second crop, because down here at a certain point the older plants are susceptible to blight and such as that, and the heat stress them, and they'll start to die. And well, this year I want to get on top of my game. So the plan is to get my second crop planted early enough that it's almost ready when, or fixing to produce, maybe even starting to produce as the other crop is on its last leg of production and the plants are failing. And you can pretty much tell this the longer you're gardening. If the planting guide says you plant at a certain time and it doesn't tell you when to plant that second crop, and so that's what you need to do. You need to, as a gardener, you need to have a mind of your own and understand your plants and understand how to take care of them. But what I've done is I've got some peppers, and last year I didn't plan so much ahead of time. I knew what I wanted to plant, but I didn't realize that I didn't have certain seeds. So this year I get them out, and of course I'm lacking one variety of bell pepper that I planted last year that I really liked. So what I'm going to do, or I already have today is ordered that seed as I go through here. Because last year I was going to plant Carolina Reapers and I didn't have the seed. Well, I planted them later and the seed just didn't do good at all. It was, the weather was warming up. The plants didn't get maybe 2 inches high and they was just kind of stood there, for probably 2 months time from the time I planted them. And so they would never make a crop for the season. And so I didn't have any, which was no big loss. I mean, but it's something that you need to consider whenever you're planning to do your garden. The other thing is space. You've got a certain amount of space, so you need to kind of figure how many plants. Now, if you're doing on the square foot method, that might be fine. I think that's more of a elementary school method to learning how to garden. When you plant vegetables, it's not like a commercial producer, when they plant vegetables. You have a chance to better control your soil conditions so that you have quality soil that can support a tighter amount of plants in a smaller area. And now, in some plants, this may cause them to be smaller plants. Now, I plant my cabbage real close together. Now, the heads could be bigger if they were planted further apart. But the thing is for me, and I market a lot, and of course we eat them, it doesn't make a difference to me how big my cabbage is. I don't need a giant cabbage if I'm going to make coleslaw. Now, it's good if you're going to make sauerkraut, you might want bigger cabbages. And I've got a variety that I've planted that's in the ground right now that's like that. And I plant them a little further apart because I know in order to get the bigger size, it's going to take a bigger area. Now, if you're one of these gardeners that it's competition for you, you got to grow bigger and better vegetables than anybody else. That's fine. That's fine. Do that. But that's not what growing's about. Growing's about putting good quality food on your table. If you have quality soil, you take care of it. You plant ahead of time. You get the microbes build up. You're going to have quality vegetables. And you really need to understand, for new gardeners, now some of the old gardeners too, chemical fertilizers have been pushed on us for a long time. And these are chemicals. Phosphate that's in these are made from petroleum, natural gas. If that's what you want to eat, you want to put natural gas in you, then that's fine. You know that this fluoride that they put in your water is a byproduct of that process, and I'm not going to go into that. You can do your own research. These vegetables that you grow with these chemical fertilizers are a lot less nutrient dense. So yes, they will get big, but they will not have the nutrient quality of organically grown vegetables. It does take a little bit to get to where your organic growing situation takes hold, but you'll find that your pest pressure is a whole lot less. When I do my no-till method of gardening, where I use compost and just revitalize it, that gives me enough organic matter. That gives me a good way to support the microbes, and it gives me a good, healthy, quality produce. So I understand that. If you're starting out, you might want to space your vegetables a little further apart in that method, because and understand your organic fertilizers, most of them don't act like chemical fertilizers. They're more like a slow release, because microbes break them down, bring them to your plant roots, because the plants secrete a sugar that entices these microbes to come. And so that's the way that works. And you got to have more microbes to have a faster growing situation, break these down. And that's one reason why I say you start early. Build your beds, make sure there is moisture year round on these, because just like us, your bacteria and fungi that's in the soil have to have moisture to live. Pick your varieties that you'll like. If you want to grow some extra, you have extra space and you want to share with some neighbors, and maybe what they like or something like that. If you just want to try something new, this year I've got a different pepper that I got seed last year when I heard about it, and they think it might be good, I'm going to try it this year as another pepper. But there's several pepper varieties and this is in the hot end that I'm not going to grow this year because I don't particularly have a big taste for them. They're all right, but I've got a lot of others that I like, and plus certain ones at the market people don't have that interest in. They might occasionally someone wants one, but there's no need in me dedicating space to something that I'm not going to eat, and it's not going to sell, so I'm just going to throw away. And that's why it's important for you to pick those varieties. Understand certain plants come on at different times. Now I still have, and I have seeds out here for cabbage. I'm going to plant some more cabbage and such as that. And I have a whole lot of beds that are empty, but they're empty for a reason, because if I'm planning to put certain plants in the ground at the end of March, and it's January, I've got 3 months, and unless I've got a crop that'll come on in 3 months, then I might as well leave this bed empty. A lot of times I will stick something in that's a fast grower. You can grow radishes; they don't mind cold weather. Your cabbage, you can grow, especially your Chinese cabbage and Napa cabbages. They grow really fast. So that and bok choy, but start understanding your seeds and start getting them. I have a whole lot of different tomatoes here that I'm not planting. I have a whole bag full. I have a whole bunch of peppers here that I'm not planting. And another thing I want you to understand about your seeds, and most people don't know, they don't think about it, but you get a seed pack and it says for a certain year. Now it's a little easier on Baker Creek seed. They'll say sell by a certain time, and these were, now it's 2 years ago, or December of 22. These seeds are still good. When you see a germ test on a package, that doesn't mean that they just screw these seeds and they test the germination rate and they give that. These seeds could be 4 or 5 years old. Every time at the end of the season, whenever there's seeds left over, and I buy bulk seeds, the place that I buy these from, they go back and they take that batch and they germ test it, or germination test. I hate abbreviations, but they germination test it, and then they'll give a new germination amount. And that's why sometimes you'll see 70% on germination on some seeds. When you store seeds at a low temperature, and you can check the information on the internet about the seed vault and what temperature they store those for long term to get you an idea. But I keep my seeds in the freezer the biggest part of the time. But they do lay out here, so that affects them. Like I've got them pulled out, and they'll be pulled out probably for at least a month until I get ready to plant all these. Change a lot of mine, and I put them in Mylar bags. It keeps the moisture level lower. In fact, it would really be low if I sealed them, but it keeps them lower than if they're in a paper bag like this, just folded closed. And you need to understand how you save your seeds is a big part. They don't like heat. The more they're in heat, it's going to damage them. Some people keep them in the refrigerator. They're afraid to freeze them. And certain seeds, like parsnips, onions, seeds like that, they lose the germination rate real quick. So if you have some that's a few years old, and I did an experiment back in my older videos of onion seeds that were roughly about 10 years old, and I planted I just found them. They were out in the workshop in a plastic tote. Somehow they just ended up there, and they got put on the shelf in the workshop. And it gets probably 100 degrees or so out there too. But when I planted these onion seeds, I didn't have one seed germinate. So understand that, and especially if you have old seeds, understand that they're going to germinate slower. I have a lot of seeds that would normally germinate in say 2 to 3 days. When they're a few years old, they might take 5 to 7, maybe 10 days. And that's a thing that you have to realize. Don't think that your seeds aren't viable. but you need to test them, and you need to test them early enough that you can get new seeds. A lot of seeds I buy of particular things that's important to me, I take and a couple of them and I germinate them right off, see how they're going to do. And it's important to know that your seed is going to germinate, especially if you're buying them from, say, eBay or Etsy or something like that, because you're having a problem finding the variety. You need to make sure they'll germinate. Now, not necessarily, they might not be true to the kind, but most of the seeds I buy, it's easy to identify the seed for that particular crop or variety. But anyway, this is the start. We're going to go into it a little more in depth, but I want you to understand the important thing, especially new gardeners. This is a guide. This is not a have-to. And if you really want to be a good gardener, you might want to get you a book and start writing down. You get you one of these calendar books, write down on the date you plant something. And if something doesn't work out just right, make sure you make a note in that guide. If you didn't plant it early enough, if you plant it too early, and then you can go back in that guide or even get a calendar for the next year and put down a date that you want to start these based on what you did last year. Sometimes you can remember, sometimes you can't. And understand that a lot of crops, it's just like down here in the South, if I put in okra just when it starts to warm up, and I normally sprout it inside, the chance is it's going to sit there until it gets enough heat that it's going to grow. And so you need to know this too. It doesn't matter how early you plant something. If it's got to have heat, then you've got to have the growing conditions for it to grow. But anyway, thanks for following along, and we'll continue this journey. Those of you that's new, that want to learn more about the basics of gardening, and that's what we're all about: growing food, preserving it, and then self-sustaining lifestyle. But if you want to learn more, hit that subscribe and select all, or the bell and select all. And of course, give it a big thumbs up and share this video. I hope you have a great gardening season this year.